Chapter 81. 81, Relationship Not Good. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 81. Relationship Not Good. Translator. _min_Sher Cohen also spoke up, saying, yes, when you were children, I wanted to arrange a marriage for you too, but I was afraid that you might not like that stinky boy when you grew up, so one never mentioned it. However, Grandpa Sher has always hoped that you could become my granddaughter. Law. Even Sher Kwang, who was usually decisive and resolute in the business world, turned his head expectantly to look at Gu Dai after hearing this topic. Gu Dai, faced with 3 pairs of expectant eyes, felt somewhat at a loss. Seeing this, Shen Wan quickly stepped in. Grandpa, Mom and Dad, you are putting too much pressure on Dai Dai. Relationships should be something that progresses naturally. Besides, Dai Dai has just returned and might need to handle some company matters for now. Gu Dai nodded slightly in agreement. Speaking of the company, Sher Kun and the others were reminded of how it had been left in a mess by Gu Ming over the past 3 years. Sher Kwang began, Dai Dai, if there's anything you need help with in the company, just come to Uncle Sher. The Sher family will do everything we can to assist you. Gu Dai nodded, smiling gratefully, thank you, Uncle Sher, I understand. Sher Kwang waved a hand dismissively, we're family, no need for thanks. It's something we should do. They chatted for quite some time. When most of the guests had arrived, Gu Dai spoke up, Uncle, Aunt, please go and attend to the guests. Nuanyuan and one will take a walk outside. Lin Yi agreed with a smile, also reminding Shen Wan to take good care of Gu Dai and have fun. Shen Wan promptly replied, don't worry, Mom, one will. The arriving guests had already noticed Gu Dai. After all, the Sher family was known for being serious and stern in their circle. Now they were laughing so heartily in front of a young woman, how could they not be curious? They couldn't help but discuss in hushed tones. Do you know who that woman is? I've never seen her before, but she must be capable to stand before the Sher family. One must admit, she's quite beautiful. Could she be Sher family's young master's girlfriend? I don't think so. The young master is still abroad, and if he had a girlfriend, he'd surely introduce her to the family. Look, President Song is here. Song Ling, with a gift in hand, entered the Sher residence with a troubled expression. He hadn't expected to encounter Gu Dai, whom he really didn't want to see at the moment. Song Ling said, Master Sher. Sher Kun nodded, eyeing Song Ling. He had heard of Song Ling, a young man who had managed to establish the Song family's foothold in the capital city in a short time. Now that he met him in person, he found he had a certain demeanor to him. Sher Kun praised, President Song, you are quite accomplished at your age. One believe you are even more accomplished than your father. Song Ling bowed slightly and modestly replied, you flatter me, sir. By the way, the Song family recently acquired a great piece of land. One wonder if the Sher family would be interested in developing it together. Sher Kun looked at Sher Kwang, then turned to Song Ling, I've been out of the family business for many years. You can discuss company matters with my son. Song Ling nodded, and within 15 minutes, they had signed a contract. Although Song Ling had accomplished what he came for, he did not plan to leave immediately. Thinking of Gu Dai, whom he had seen at the entrance, he asked, Sir, how did you come to know Miss Gu's secretary? She seems to have a close relationship with your daughter as well. Sher Kun was momentarily taken aback, but his many years in business allowed him to sense that something was amiss. Sher Kun laughed, oh, you mean Gu Dai. Miss Gu was unable to come, so she sent her instead. As for their closeness, it's because Nuanyuan and Miss Gu are friends. Since Miss Gu couldn't make it, Nuanyuan had to learn about what happened to her from Gu Dai. By the way, why the sudden interest in this matter, President Song? Song Ling's eyes remained fixed on Sher Kun's face. Seeing no change in his expression, he began to doubt his own suspicions. Is Gu Dai really not Miss Gu? Song Ling felt a bit frustrated. Gu Dai and I are old acquaintances. I couldn't help but want to know more. My apologies, sir, but I must leave now, there's business to attend to at my company. Watching Song Ling's retreating figure, Shi Kuan's face gradually turned cold. Lin Yi, who had been standing nearby, asked in confusion, Dad, why didn't you tell him Dai Dai's real identity? Shi Kuan responded, Dai Dai's relationship with him doesn't seem to be great. Chapter 82. 82, great job, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 82. Great job, translator. Min_Shenhuan's gaze landed on Gu Dai from time to time. Her eyes filled with a growing curiosity and uncertainty, deepening her perplexity like a shadow stretching with the descending sun. Gu Dai had noticed this early on, and with a gentle sigh, she said, if you have anything you want to ask, Nuanyuan, just ask. Shenhuan's face seemed caught between a frown and a question as she whispered, Dai Dai, do you have a grudge with Song Ling? When we bumped into him at the door earlier, he looked at you so fiercely, and his eyes were full of inquiry when he looked at you. The night was calm and the moon a sliver in the sky, as Gu Dai turned her eyes to Shenhuan and softly revealed, Song Ling is the man one married during the 3 years I lost my memory. He's my ex-husband. Shenhuan's reaction was one of utter shock. Her body froze and her face filled with disbelief. When she discovered the odd atmosphere between Gu Dai and Song Ling, many guesses, thoughts and theories formulated in her head, but that was the only possibility she didn't consider. With a sudden resurgence of anger, she exclaimed, I can't believe Song Ling, this bastard, acts like a decent person outside, but changes completely at home. How dare he bully my precious Dai Dai? I'm going to break his leg. Then she quickly picked up a stick from the ground and was ready to march forward. Gu Dai quickly grabbed Shenhuan, who was about to lung out. Shenhuan shouted, Dai Dai, why did you stop me? Gu Dai gently patted Shenhuan's head and comforted, people like Song Ling don't need us to do anything. He will receive his retribution in the future. Song Ling, approaching them at this moment, overheard Gu Dai's words. His face darkened as he coldly accused, Gu Dai, so this is how you slander me behind my back. Gu Dai, slightly taken aback but composed, took a step forward, meeting his eyes as she questioned, did I say anything wrong? After all, your affection for Miss Jiang Yu is not something new. Song Ling's face turned frosty and his steps quickened as he moved towards Gu Dai, grabbing her hand and pulling her away. Because everything happened so quickly, Shenhuan reacted with haste, running up and grabbing Gu Dai's other hand, her grip on the stick tightening as she warned, I advise you to let go of Dai Dai, or don't blame me for being rude. Gu Dai shook off Song Ling's grip, whispering reassurance to Shenhuan, it's okay. I'll see what Song Ling is up to, and did you forget my abilities? Song Ling can't beat me. You go back first, and say goodbye to Grandpa Shi for me. I'll visit him next time. Shenhuan, remembering Gu Dai's ability, nodded but left a parting caution, Dai Dai, be careful. After Shenhuan's departure, Gu Dai turned to Song Ling, her voice firm, let's go. Gu Dai led the way as they walked. Song Ling followed behind, his hands still pulsing from being shaken off and his eyes were on Gu Dai's back, lost in thought. When did she get so strong? The silence between them was heavy, broken only by Gu Dai's impatient voice, if you have anything you want to ask, just ask. Song Ling responded with a cold hum, his face as dark as coal. Old Master Shi said that Shenhuan wanted to know about the situation of Miss Gu from the Gu family from you. But one see that she seems to have a good relationship with you. Tell me, besides being Miss Gu's secretary, what other identities do you have? Song Ling had previously thought that Gu Dai leveraged Su Ting's identity to gain entry to the Gu group. However, her surprising trustworthiness, and what seemed like a pleasant relationship with the Shi family, didn't align with the treatment one would expect from someone who'd pulled strings to get where she was. Gu Dai had initially assumed that Song Ling learned from Grandpa Shi that she was not merely a secretary but the young miss of the Gu family. Yet, to her surprise, he still seemed oblivious to the truth. Gu Dai had no intention of enlightening Song Ling, and as she faced his probing questions, her voice carried an air of finality. After all, Shen Muan and Miss Gu get along well and have similar dislikes, such as detesting playboys. Since I have this experience, they inevitably want to vent. Gradually, we became familiar with each other. Song Ling's expression changed, as his face was dark as coal. His fists clenched tightly, his eyes fixed on Gu Dai with a ferocious intensity. Gritting his teeth, he seethed, "Gu Dai, you are truly something. How could one have in the past?" Suddenly, his voice was cut short by the sight of flames dancing ahead of them. The unexpected fire caught his attention, leaving him staring at the source of the light. Chapter 83. 83, No Need. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 83. No Need. Translator. _min_ not far away, in an open space, a family was gathered. The source of the flames was their cooking fire. Gu Dai looked at the scene, then turned her head to the pale-faced Song Ling, sighing helplessly. She nudged him to turn away from the flames, saying, "Let's go over there. I never thought that, after all these years, you would still be afraid of fire." Song Ling took a while to recover, his mind clouded with images of raging flames. He had been rescued by Jiang Yu from a fire in his childhood, but the trauma had left a lingering shadow. Whenever he saw fire, he would feel fear. Once Song Ling had composed himself, he recalled what Gu Dai had just said and looked at her, puzzled, asking, "How did you know I'm afraid of fire?" Gu Dai glanced at Song Ling and answered nonchalantly, "After all, back then," she stopped mid-sentence, rephrasing her words, "every time you see fire, your expression changes." "I'm not stupid, isn't it something that can be guessed with a little thought?" In reality, Song Ling's fear was not so apparent. Gu Dai knew because she had seen him as a child when she had rushed into the house to save him. If it weren't for the events of the past 3 years, Gu Dai would have told Song Ling about this. However, now, she didn't want to become too entangled with him, so there was no need to mention it. Song Ling heard the pause in Gu Dai's speech, and he questioned, "What did you mean by, back then?" Gu Dai's face remained impassive as she replied, "Nothing. Was this all you wanted to talk to me about? Since we've finished, I'll leave now." "Wait." Song Ling called out to Gu Dai, stating his real purpose, "Gu Dai, did you trick my mother into selling her paintings and even made her sign a contract?" Gu Dai was somewhat surprised, not expecting Song Ling to learn about this so quickly. "Only tricking." Gu Dai raised her downcast eyes and looked at Song Ling seriously. "I indeed asked someone to buy the paintings, but there was no deception. After all, Mrs. Wang Lan didn't hesitate to sign the contract once we explained our intentions. If you don't believe me, I can get the coffee shop to show you the surveillance video." Song Ling coldly refused, "There is no need." He had already seen the video and was more aware of Wang Lan's behavior than anyone else. This understanding only fueled his anger, and he had cursed Wang Lan for her stupidity more than once. Song Ling continued, "My mother signing the contract quickly is not an excuse for your malicious intentions. She was once so nice to you, and you tricked her with these deceitful tactics. Can you live with your conscience?" Gu Dai wondered if she had misheard as stared at Song Ling in shock. "You think Wang Lan was nice to me?" Without waiting for Song Ling to respond, she continued, "Wang Lan ordered me to wash the family's clothes in cold water in the winter, to run for hours in the summer to buy her favorite food, and verbally abused me, among other things. If you say she acted behind my back when you didn't you see how she treated me at the art exhibition? You think she was nice to me?" Song Ling recalled the scenes from the exhibition. The arrogance of Wang Lan and Song Yu floated before his eyes. His face showed guilt, but he still insisted, "Maybe my mother's behavior was extreme at times, but I don't believe she bullied you all these years." There must have been good times too, or why didn't you tell me about her bullying? Gu Dai scoffed and looked at Song Ling for a moment before answering, her voice tinged with irony. Wan Lan has indeed bullied me all these 3 years and never treated me well. As for not telling you, you never gave me the chance to speak. Even if I had, you wouldn't have believed me, always thinking one was playing tricks, trying to gain your sympathy. Song Ling's figure trembled, images flooding his mind. Gu Dai had indeed told him, but he had been particularly impatient at the time, brushing her off and hanging up the phone. Chapter 84. 84. Save the trouble. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 84. Save the trouble. Translator. _min_ Song Ling wanted to tell Gu Dai that she deserved what had happened. If she hadn't been so set on marrying him in the first place, she would never have gone through such an ordeal. But when Song Ling looked at Gu Dai's face, something inside him hesitated. His mouth opened and closed, and in the end, the words remained trapped in his throat, unsaid. Gu Dai, sensing his reluctance, didn't want to prolong the uncomfortable moment. Her voice, slightly impatient, broke the silence. If there's nothing else, then I'll be going. Wait. Song Ling spoke out. Gu Dai, not wanting to be drawn into a pointless conversation, continued to walk away. Taking a deep breath to calm his racing heart, Song Ling spoke directly. I've already given the painting to Miss Gu, and you knew it well. Yet you still bought it from my mom. No matter how you look at it, this is unethical of you. Gu Dai stopped in her tracks, her body rigid with shock. She turned to look at Song Ling, her eyes wide with disbelief, and asked in astonishment, are you saying that the gift that was delivered that day was a painting by Master Chui Song? Song Ling's annoyance flared, not understanding the reason for Gu Dai's reaction. Of course, what else did you think? Besides, didn't one hand the painting directly to you? Didn't you see that it was a painting? Realization struck Song Ling's mind as he spoke. He quickly turned to look at Gu Dai. He asked, did you throw the painting away? Gu Dai remained silent, her eyes downcast. Song Ling saw Gu Dai's silence and face turned ashen. His voice rose in incredulous anger, Gu Dai, you actually threw the painting away. Did Miss Gu authorize this? Fine, tell Miss Gu that the Song family will no longer cooperate with the Gu family in any way. Gu Dai did not take Song Ling's threat to heart since she did not plan to have any partnerships with the Song family in the first place. Now that he has reached the same conclusion, it saved her a lot of trouble. Her thoughts were elsewhere, her heart aching at the thought of the painting, especially one titled Moon, her father's favorite. With a heavy heart, Gu Dai ignored Song Ling and hurriedly left, the tires of her car screeching as she sped towards the Gu family home. Watching Gu Dai's hasty departure, Song Ling's face twisted in anger. He took out his phone, his hands trembling as he called Zhao Xian to pick him up. Upon hearing Song Ling's cold voice, Zhao Xian's heart skipped a beat. He drove quickly to the Shi family gate, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Song Ling got into the car, his face as cold as ice, a palpable chill emanating from him. Zhao Xian cowered in his seat, his voice barely above a whisper as he said, Mr. Song, I've found the whereabouts of the legendary doctor. According to our investigation, the divine doctor is in the capital. After Song Ling heard Zhao Xian's words, the icy chill surrounding him noticeably thawed, and his furrowed brows relaxed. His face softened as he commanded, even though you have found the divine doctor's whereabouts, do not let your guard down. Keep investigating, and find the divine doctor's specific location. Seeing Song Ling's mood improve, Zhao Xian quietly breathed a sigh of relief and promptly responded, yes. Song Ling closed his eyes and gently leaned back in his chair. His mind became adrift with thoughts of gratitude and indebtedness. In his life, Song Ling owed debts of gratitude to two people. One was Jiang Yu, who had saved him from a raging fire during his childhood, the other was the legendary doctor who had snatched him back from the brink of death when he had been wounded by a bullet. He had found Jiang Yu, and was in the process of repaying that debt. Soon, he would also find the divine doctor, and he vowed to thank her in person, to fulfill any promise, and to offer his gratitude. But what did the legendary doctor look like? The thought intrigued him. And she was now in the capital. Would he recognize her if he stumbled upon her? As Song Ling fantasized about the appearance of the divine doctor, an unexpected image flashed in his mind. The face of Gu Dai. He snapped open his eyes, quickly dismissing the notion. Impossible. How could it be Gu Dai? Although there was a faint resemblance in the feelings she evoked, Gu Dai, that woman, could never match up to the legendary doctor. Zhao Xian, who was observing Song Ling, was taken aback by the sudden increase in intensity emanating from him, especially as he had just begun to relax. The next second, Song Ling's questioning voice reached his ears, "The house that was given to Gu Dai earlier, has she sold it?" Zhao Xian slightly shrank back, answering, "No." Song Ling's eyebrows knitted together, he inquired further, "Not sold? Is she living in it?" Zhao Xian once again negated, "No, Miss Gu has not gone back since her divorce." Song Ling's face turned ashen, his hands clenched into angry fists, and he punched the car seat once in a fit of rage. Gu Dai had neither sold the house nor lived in it. That must mean she was staying in some wild man's house. Chapter 85. 85, I'd Be a Dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 85. I'd Be a Dog. Translator. _min_. Although Song Ling had previously been unfamiliar with clothing and jewelry, in recent times, Jiang Yu had made him purchase a number of pieces from high-end brands, so he had gained some understanding. Reflecting on Gu Dai's attire that day, Song Ling suddenly realized that everything she wore was limited edition. How could Gu Dai possibly afford it? It must have been given to her by some man. Truly a gold digger, flitting from man to man. Ha, she had once claimed to love him, but it must have been his money she was after. Gu Dai was unaware of the disdain Song Ling had just heaped on her in his heart. Even if she had known, she wouldn't have cared, as nothing was more important to her right now than finding the painting. Chu Min yawned, dragging his feet, inquiring puzzledly, "Boss, why did you call me to the company so late?" Finding a moment, Gu Dai replied to Chu Min, "Come help me find a painting. It's Master Chui Song's Moon." Chu Min's eyes widened, sleepiness vanishing in an instant, as he began searching through the storeroom. After looking for 10 minutes, Chu Min held up an object, calling to Gu Dai, "Boss, take a look, is this it?" Gu Dai glanced over, and seeing the lifelike image within, she nodded excitedly, "Yes, that's it." Chu Min sighed in relief after finding the painting. It was then that he remembered something he'd ignored. "Boss, wasn't this painting bought by Song Ling? How come it's in your company's storeroom?" Gu Dai, admiring the artwork, replied, "Song Ling sent it over." Chu Min froze, then paced back and forth, worrying, "Song Ling suddenly sending you a painting can't be a good sign. Has he realized that he likes you after the divorce?" "Yes, that must be it." Gu Dai carefully put away the painting and looked at the worried Chu Min, saying, "Stop imagining things. This painting was sent to Miss Gu, and in his eyes, I'm now Miss Gu's secretary. And don't worry, Song Ling will never like me in this lifetime." Even though Gu Dai had lost her memory for 3 years, she remembered everything that had happened during that time, including the full disdain in Song Ling's eyes every time he looked at her. Chu Min, after he processed the information for a while, finally understood her meaning. But he disagreed with her last statement, "Boss, you're so outstanding, Song Ling is bound to fall for you. Plus, that's how they portray it in TV dramas." Gu Dai glared at Chu Min, stating seriously, "Watch less TV drama, those things are fake and can't happen in real life." Even after Gu Dai had said that, Chu Min persisted, "What if, I'm just saying what if Song Ling likes you one day, boss, will you go back to him?" "No," Gu Dai replied firmly, elaborating, "I might fall for someone in the future, but never Song Ling. If I went back to him, I'd be a dog. Meanwhile, at the Song family's old mansion, Jiang Yu sat beside Wang Lan, asking softly, "Auntie, why did you call me out so late? What's the matter?" Wang Lan grasped Jiang Yu's hand, her tone bitter. Yeah, I feel that I've been tricked by Gu Dai." After so long, Wang Lan had figured it out. The only person who knew about her painting and dared to retaliate against her must be the recently changed Gu Dai. Wang Lan recounted the entire incident to Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu couldn't help but mentally scold Wang Lan in her mind as a fool. Such an obvious scam, and she fell right for it. However, on the surface, Jiang Yu still softly comforted her, "Auntie, it's all because Gu Dai is too cunning. I might have been fooled too if I were in your place. By the way, have you told Song Ling? Has he said he'll help you solve this?" Wang Lan shook her head. "I told Song Ling, but not only did he not go to deal with that wretched little Gu Dai, he even decided to make me pay her 500 million yuan. Just now, he arranged for someone to forcefully make me sign a loan contract, saying the 500 million was a temporary loan, and that I should repay him later." Chapter 86. 86, Not a Chance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 86. Not a Chance. Translator. Jiang Yu's eyes dimmed slightly, her gaze holding a hint of melancholy as she looked up in defense of Wang Lan. "Auntie, you are Song Ling's biological mother, and 500 million yuan means nothing to him. How could he make you sign a contract?" Wang Lan's eyes sparkled as she looked at Jiang Yu. Her hands tightly gripped Jiang Yu's, and she excitedly said, Yeah, you are the only one who cares for your auntie. You're infinitely better than that cunning woman Gu Dai. By the way, you and Song Ling are getting married next month. Have you chosen your wedding dress yet?" A look of dejection spread across Jiang Yu's face. Seeing Jiang Yu like this, Wang Lan asked with concern, "What's wrong? Is Song Ling not cooperating with you? Just tell your auntie, and I'll call him and scold him right now." Jiang Yu shook her head slightly and began in a soft voice, "Auntie, Song Ling and I went to choose a wedding dress this afternoon. I invited him to dinner, but he declined, saying he had work. But a friend sent me a photo of him standing with Gu Dai." Quickly, as her voice trailed off, Jiang Yu showed it to Wang Lan. In the photograph, Song Ling was captured looking down, his eyes fixed intently on Gu Dai, as if engaged in earnest conversation with her. Under the veil of night, there was an ambiguous air between them. Upon seeing the photograph, Wang Lan's eyes narrowed and her anger caused her to slap her thigh as she exclaimed, "Song Ling is secretly meeting this wretched woman. What is he trying to do? It must be that cheap woman Gu Dai seducing him." Jiang Yu hurriedly spoke in a soothing tone, "Auntie, don't be angry. Sister Gu Dai already has a supermodel boyfriend. She couldn't possibly do this." Wang Lan sneered, "That's not certain. Yeah, you're too kind-hearted, thinking Gu Dai is a good person. Don't forget, she's surrounded by several men. Maybe she was born to seduce men, and having a boyfriend won't stop her." Jiang Yu's face turned ashen and her body swayed as if she was about to collapse. Wang Lan embraced Jiang Yu, reassuring her softly, "But don't worry, yeah, your auntie will always stand by your side. If Song Ling dares to do anything wrong, I won't spare him. Rest assured." Jiang Yu managed a small smile, clinging to Wang Lan like a lost child, "With auntie here, I'm not worried." Jiang Yu continued, "Actually, when I saw this photo, one thought it was a misunderstanding and didn't plan to show it to auntie. One brought it out because after hearing about auntie's situation, I felt that the reason Song Ling did this might be because Gu Dai is trying to sow discord between you two." Wang Lan, moved by Jiang Yu's words about sowing discord between mother and son, recalled the time Song Ling helped Gu Dai in his cold, impatient, and forceful tone towards her today. Wang Lan's face hardened and her voice turned icy. "It's a possibility, Gu Dai is definitely trying to drive a wedge between Song Ling and me. I'll have someone watch her. When I get hold of her secrets, she'll pay. The smile on Jiang Yu's face brightened. In her mind, Jiang Yu had an epiphany. Wang Lan was indeed foolish, but she now found her foolishness endearing. Sometimes, a slight hint was all it took to bend her to her will. After giving orders over the phone, Wang Lan's mood lifted considerably. She turned to Jiang Yu with a beaming smile and asked. Yeah, are you free tonight? My back and waist are aching. Your massage technique last time was particularly good. Now, Jiang Yu's expression stiffened for a moment before she recovered and apologetically said, Auntie, I have an appointment with a private doctor for my hand tonight. He should be here already. Next time I have a chance, I'll massage for you. Jiang Yu left without giving Wang Lan a chance to respond. In the 3 years that Gu Dai was oppressed by Wang Lan and dared not resist, Jiang Yu was no fool. This old hag actually wanted to exploit her. Never. Gu Dai's mood grew heavier in the following days. Eventually, the day of Gu father and Gu mother's memorial arrived. The sky was overcast, and as the light rain fell, Gu Dai walked toward the cemetery, holding her mother's favorite flowers and her father's cherished painting. Her face turned slightly to the side as she said to Lin Sheng beside her, Uncle Lin, it's raining today, you didn't have to come. Lin Sheng shook his head, and spoke softly, Mr. and Mrs. were especially good to me and took care of me. On this day, I cannot be absent. Chapter 87. 87.1 Miss you guys, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 87.1 Miss you guys, translator. Moreover, last night, Lin Sheng received a phone call from the third young master of the Meng family, Meng Ji. The voice on the other end was earnest and full of instructions, imploring Lin Sheng to take good care of Gu Dai today and ensure that nothing went wrong. Gu Dai, seeing Lin Sheng's insistence, decided not to persuade him further. Though she had spent the night without sleep, her face revealing signs of fatigue, upon laying eyes on the photos of her parents on the tombstone, she felt an unprecedented clarity. Her eyes, red, were fixed on the scene before her. The black and white photos, worn and washed by rain, still radiated the memory of her parents. Her father, a picture of gentle refinement, her mother, serene and elegant. It made people feel a profound sense of time's gentle passage. Images of times spent with her parents flashed through Gu Dai's mind, and she knelt on the ground, head bowed, tears slowly escaping her reddened eyes. With a choked sob, Gu Dai whispered, Daddy, Mommy, I've come to see you. Lin Sheng, witnessing Gu Dai's appearance, felt his own eyes reddening, and he turned his head away, unable to bear the sight. What kind and wonderful people her parents had been, once a blissful family. Now they were separated by the barrier of death, leaving their daughter to bear this sorrow alone. Gu Dai's gaze drifted into the void, as if she saw her parents arm in arm, smiling at her with doting affection. You don't have to worry about me, I'll take care of myself. I will seek justice for you. I am already investigating the incidents from back then. Once the evidence comes to light, I won't let those who harmed you go unpunished. I will make them pay. Daddy, Mommy, I miss you. Gu Dai believed that the cruise explosion, her younger uncle's delayed medical treatment, and her parents' sudden car accident during the explosion were all related to Gu Ming. By investigating him, she would find conclusive evidence to send him to hell. Determination and hatred were mixed in Gu Dai's slightly lowered eyes. Wang Lan had been shopping when she suddenly received a message that Gu Dai had left the house, accompanied by a middle-aged man. Images filled Wang Lan's mind, and she couldn't believe that Gu Dai would stoop so low for money, even accepting the company of a middle-aged man. She felt disgraced just thinking that she once had such a daughter. Lol. At first, the old patriarch seemed as if he had been bewitched. He preferred Gu Dai while expressing his distaste for Wang Lan. Now, Wang Lan intended to capture evidence of Gu Dai's immoral and throw it in Song An's face, to make him realize the flaws in his judgment. Spotting Gu Dai, Wang Lan shouted, Gu Dai, you shameless woman, sneaking here to the cemetery for a secret meeting. Wang Lan had initially thought that Gu Dai would take the middle-aged man to a hotel, never expecting to find them in the cemetery. Gu Dai's brows furrowed slightly, but she didn't want to cause a scene in front of her parents' tombstone. She replied calmly, I don't want to argue with you today. Please leave. But Wang Lan didn't leave and continued her offense, I thought you had some shame left. I never expected your skin to be so thick. Seeing that Gu Dai was ignoring her, Wang Lan turned to Lin Sheng, pointing at Gu Dai, do you know that this Gu Dai already has a boyfriend? I didn't think so, but I can tell you, there are several more men around her, and you're just one of the fish in her pond. As an executive in the Gu family, are you willing to be played by this wretched woman? Wang Lan sneered, by the way, did you bring Gu Dai to see your parents? If they knew you liked a woman like this, they'd never rest in peace. Lin Sheng never expected someone to be so disrespectful and cause a disturbance on such an important day, especially spouting nonsensical, insulting words. His face turned dark, and he stepped forward, intending to drive Wang Lan away. Wang Lan, seeing Lin Sheng approaching menacingly, felt a sudden panic. She hadn't expected him to confront her rather than Gu Dai. Screeching in fear, she yelled, if you dare touch me, I'll scream for help. Lin Sheng, having dealt with many upper-class individuals in his work, had never encountered someone as brazen as Wang Lan. Normally gentle and refined, he now clenched his fists, glaring at her with eyes filled with rage. Behind them, Gu Dai's voice stopped Lin Sheng, Uncle Lin, don't lay a hand on her. Chapter 88. 88, Looking for Trouble. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 88. Looking for Trouble. Translator. Lin Sheng wanted to hit Wang Lan, but since Gu Dai had already spoken, he reluctantly withdrew his hand. However, his gaze was still coldly fixed on Wang Lan. Wang Lan never expected that even after she had explained so clearly, Lin Sheng would still listen to Gu Dai. She couldn't understand why all these men were so infatuated with her, as if they were blind. Gu Dai's exquisite face was stern, her aura chilling like ice. Coldly watching Wang Lan, she said softly, I've given you a chance, and you didn't value it. Don't blame me for being impolite now. Wang Lan's heart trembled at the sight of Gu Dai's expression. Instantly, she recalled the time at the art exhibition when she was slapped by Gu Dai. Still, she mustered the strength to retort, what, did one say something wrong? Aren't you the one who seduces any rich man you see, even middle-aged ones? Gu Dai let out a cold laugh, her eyes fixed tightly on Wang Lan. Heh, my normal interactions with others are seen as seduction in your eyes. Thinking this way only proves you're not a good person. Wang Lan became furious, don't forget, I'm your mother. In law. How dare you talk to me like this? Aren't you afraid I'll expose what you've done? Then everyone in the world will despise you. Despise? Gu Dai looked at Wang Lan as if she'd heard a joke and spoke dismissively, I've divorced Song Ling, so you're just a former mother. In law. We have no relation now. If you want to expose me, go ahead. We'll see whether it's me who gets despised or you. Wang Lan was provoked by Gu Dai's gaze and she retreated 2 steps, creating a safe distance before she spoke, I don't even have to think about it, you'll definitely be the one despised. And you must be a jinx, probably the reason your parents died, leaving you an orphan. Good thing you're now divorced from my son. In her triumph, Wang Lan didn't notice Gu Dai advancing towards her step by step, the chill in her face and the cold aura around her was akin to a vengeful ghost. Gu Dai didn't let Wang Lan finish. She raised her hand to slap her. Gu Dai hadn't wanted to strike Wang Lan in front of her parents, knowing her words couldn't really harm her, but she hadn't expected Wang Lan to become increasingly offensive, even daring to bring up her parents. That was simply asking for death. Gu Dai used considerable force in the slap, sending Wang Lan tumbling to the ground. Wang Lan touched her face, and the next second a numbing pain swept through her body. Regaining her senses, she screamed, "Ah ah ah, Gudai, you dare to hit me. One won't let you off, I'll scratch your face to pieces." Wan Lan extended her arms out, charging at Gu Dai like a madwoman. But she'd only taken a few steps when she was grabbed, immobilized, and then violently thrown aside. A deep, magnetic, and furious male voice came from above Wan Lan, "You've really got some nerve, daring to bully Dai Dai." Lin Xing exhaled in relief at the sight of the man, glad that the third young master of the Meng family had arrived in time. Otherwise, the consequences of Miss Gu Dai's anger would be unthinkable. But Lin Xing relaxed too soon, as Meng Ji was equally terrifying when angered. Gu Dai looked at Meng Ji, whom she hadn't seen for 3 years, and for a moment was stunned. Then she threw herself into his arms, exclaiming, "Third brother." Meng Ji gently stroked Gu Dai's hair, whispering, "Dai Dai, brother is here, and I won't let those who bullied you off." Wan Lan took several seconds to recover from her daze, turning angrily to see Gu Dai and Meng Ji embracing. Her eyes widened, disbelieving, she cried, Why? Are all you men blind? Falling for Gu Dai, this fickle, unfaithful woman." Meng Ji's face turned cold, his eyes narrowing, and he spoke softly to Gu Dai, "Dai Dai, wait for me. I'll deal with her first." Gu Dai nodded, "Okay, but be careful." With Gu Dai's approval, Meng Ji turned to face Wan Lan. Wan Lan had only seen Meng Ji's back until now. Seeing his cold face, she felt afraid. She quickly suppressed her pain and scrambled back. Chapter 89. 89.1 Came too late. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 89.1 Came too late. Translator. _min_Wan Lan looked with terror at Meng Ji, who was approaching her step by step, her eyes filled with fear. But she didn't forget to threaten, "I warn you, my son is the president of the Song Corporation. If you dare lay a hand on me, he won't let you off." Meng Ji's steps faltered slightly, and he spoke lightly, "The president of the Song Corporation." Wan Lan thought that Meng Ji had been frightened, and a smug smile appeared on her face. Triumphantly, she said, "That's right, my son is Song Ling. If you let me go now, one can have him overlook this matter. However, one have one condition, you must stay away from Gu Dai." Meng Ji raised his fist, and without mercy, struck Wan Lan on her left cheek. Before she could react, he landed another blow on her right cheek, saying as he hit her, "One will hit you. Since your son is so formidable, let him come find me. One want to see what he can do to me." Meng Ji had come to know everything that Gu Dai had endured in the past 3 years. The more he found out, the more his heart ached, and the more he despised the Song family. He had been wondering when he would be able to help Dai Dai take care of these scumbags, and he hadn't expected to encounter the particularly vicious Wan Lan just as he had returned to the country. How could he possibly let her off? Wan Lan had always been a wealthy lady, her physical activity was limited to shopping, and thus she was no match for Meng Ji, who had been exercising regularly for years. She could only take the beating. Gu Dai, feeling it had gone on long enough and fearing that any further harm might affect Meng Ji, stepped forward and said, "Stop hitting her. She's reached her limit." Meng Ji nodded, pulling back his hand that was about to strike Wan Lan's face again. In fact, he didn't want to let Wan Lan go, he wished he could kill her. She had dared to treat Dai Dai, who had grown up pampered by him and his 2 brothers, so cruelly. And he had not stopped it in time. Meng Ji was overwhelmed with guilt and self-reproach. He hung his head and spoke softly, "Dai Dai, I'm sorry. One came too late." Gu Dai shook her head and said earnestly, "Third brother, don't blame yourself. What happened wasn't something we could have foreseen. And you were avenging me just now. I didn't think you could be so fierce." Meng Ji snapped back to reality, asking worriedly, "Dai Dai, did I scare you?" He regretted his actions, thinking he should have avoided beating Wan Lan in front of Dai Dai. Gu Dai shook her head again, replying seriously, one wasn't scared, more like impressed. Meng Ji breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, Gu Dai wasn't scared but rather stunned. Although her third brother loved excitement and was somewhat arrogant, he always maintained a gentleman's demeanor and rarely raised his hand. This was the first time Gu Dai had seen Meng Ji resort to violence, and it was so intense. While Gu Dai and Meng Ji were talking, and no one was paying attention to her, Wang Lan staggered to her feet and stumbled away, not without casting a hateful glance at the two. After leaving the cemetery, Wang Lan immediately pulled out her phone to call Song Ling. Once the call was connected, she complained, "Son, I've been bullied by Gu Dai. You must come help me." Wang Lan's face was swollen from the beating, and her speech was slurred. Song Ling had to ponder for a while before understanding what she had said. Instead of agreeing to help Wang Lan, he said, "Didn't one warn you not to seek her out?" Wang Lan felt a twinge of guilt from Song Ling's question. "Yes, but now that I've been bullied, you must." Wang Lan, enduring the pain, spoke at length but never heard Song Ling's response. When she looked at the phone, she realized the call had been disconnected. Furious, Wang Lan threw her phone to the ground, watching it shatter into pieces as she gasped for breath. Song Ling walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked up at the foggy sky. He had already received news of Wang Lan's arrival at the cemetery but hadn't expected her to be there to target Gu Dai. What was Gu Dai doing in the cemetery? As an orphan, she shouldn't have any relatives to visit. Suddenly, Song Ling remembered his recent investigation into Miss Gu. If he recalled correctly, today was the anniversary of her parents' death. Chapter 90. 90. Combination of the appearances. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 90. Combination of the appearances. Translator. Min_Gu Dai appeared in the cemetery. She must have accompanied Miss Gu there. As for Wang Lan, Song Ling had no intention of seeking justice for her at this moment. After all, he had warned her not to provoke Gu Dai, but she refused to listen. The current situation was of her own making. Ding dong. Song Ling's attention was drawn by the sound, and he took out his phone to glance at the newly received message. Looking at the photograph sent by Zhou Ci, Song Ling's eyes narrowed slightly. He magnified the image, his gaze fixed on the man and woman embracing and kissing each other, and it seemed as if flames were burning in his eyes. Song Ling's hand, gripping the phone, involuntarily clenched. Even though the woman only showed half her face, he recognized her at once. It was Gu Dai. And the man in the photo had an extremely handsome face. A handsome man and beautiful woman standing together were naturally pleasing to the eye, but Song Ling felt a sting in his eyes after looking at it, and an irritating feeling surged from the bottom of his heart. Song Ling asked, "Gu Dai, who is she with now?" "Some pretty boy." Zhou Ci responded, "If I'm not mistaken, it should be the third young master of the Meng family." "The third young master of the Meng family. Ha, well done, seducing one after another." Even the wealthy young heir who had just returned to the country fell into her trap. What a skill! After Zhou Ci responded, he put his phone away, hiding behind a large tree, concentrating on watching Gu Dai and Meng Ji. Unfortunately, he was too far away to hear what they were saying. How did Gu Dai and Meng Ji get to know each other? After all, in the past 3 years, Gu Dai had been utterly infatuated with Song Ling, crazily in love with him. Whenever Song Ling was present, her eyes admitted no one else, let alone falling in love with another person. As for Meng Ji, Zhou Ci wasn't unfamiliar with him. As the elites of the capital city, they had crossed paths, especially since Meng Ji was a well-known race car driver who was often mentioned by others. But Song Ling remembered that Meng Ji had suddenly gone abroad a few years ago, cutting off contact with his friends in the country. How did he suddenly return? However, no matter how he thought about it, it was impossible for Gu Dai and Meng Ji to have made contact. The strange occurrences didn't stop there. Zhou Xi also found Song Ling's behavior unusual. For years, Song Ling had loved Jiang Yu, treating Gu Dai indifferently, never giving her a second thought. Why was he showing so much concern for her after the divorce? Speaking of it, Zhou Xi had always thought that Gu Dai was better than Jiang Yu. After all, Gu Dai was kind and virtuous, her eyes fixed solely on Song Ling. In contrast, Jiang Yu broke up with him to study abroad when he fell on hard times, only to come back when her family's company faced problems. Zhou Xi, who had grown up in this circle, didn't need to think too hard to know what kind of person Jiang Yu was. Unfortunately, his intelligent friend Song Ling insisted that Jiang Yu was an innocent woman untouched by the world's troubles. Based on his years of experience in love, Zhou Xi's guess was that Song Ling might have regrets now. Perhaps he should think about how to help his friend win Gu Dai back. But before thinking about that, Zhou Xi also wanted to pursue Gu Dai. Her recent charm was irresistible, and he was not immune to it. Since he didn't consider himself to be a bad choice, he might have a chance to have a relationship with her. The thought of this made Zhou Xi straighten his tie and put on a standard, polite smile as he walked towards Gu Dai. With a self-assumed air and voice kept artificially low, Zhou Xi said, "Miss Gu, we must be fated to meet here." Gu Dai, suddenly interrupted in her chat with Meng Ji, looked coldly at Zhou Xi, clearly annoyed. Meng Ji also turned his head to look at Zhou Xi, asking with irritation in his tone, "Who are you?" Zhou Xi smiled at Meng Ji, "I'm the eldest son of the Zhou family in the capital. We met at a banquet once, don't you remember? But how did you and Miss Gu Dai end up together here?" Zhou Xi looked around curiously, but when his eyes landed on the black and white photo of the founding couple of the Gu family on a tombstone, he froze. Looking from the photo to Gu Dai, he suddenly realized that their appearances were similar. No, not similar, Gu Dai must be the combination of the appearances of the Gu group founders.